I still remember the first time I saw her die. It wasn't in the back of the ambulance. It wasn't even on a call. It was in my sleep. I was standing in a stranger's kitchen, the linoleum floor cold under my boots, and a woman I'd never met was choking on the air itself. Her hands clawed at her throat, her lips turned gray, and I couldn't move. I just watched. The dream ended with the sound of a spoon clattering onto the floor, a tiny, ordinary noise that felt like a door slamming shut. I woke up in my apartment on Sycamore Street, heart hammering, sheets soaked. I told myself it was just stress. I'd been a paramedic in Brentwood for 6 years. You see enough bad things, your brain cooks up its own. I showered, grabbed my go bag, and drove to the station through the thin gray light of a November morning. My partner, Rachel, was already checking the rig. "You look like hell, Ethan," she said. I shrugged it off. The radio crackled with the dispatcher's voice. "A woman in respiratory distress, Willow Creek Apartments, Unit 4B. An ordinary address in an ordinary complex, the kind with beige walls and a broken security gate that never closed." As soon as we pulled into the lot, the back of my neck prickled. The low hedge near the entrance, the rusted drain pipe, the blue door of 4B. I'd seen it all before. Not in real life, in the dream. I told myself it was coincidence. A lot of apartments looked the same. Rachel unlocked the door with the key from the building manager, and the smell hit me first. Old coffee, damp cardboard, and underneath it, something wrong. A heavy, sweet stillness. In the kitchen, an overturned chair. A woman in her 50s on the floor, same gray lips, same wide eyes, one hand frozen near her throat. The spoon. The damn spoon was right there by her fingers, still wet from whatever she'd been eating. Every detail matched. I knew before I even checked her pulse that she was dead. I'd seen her die hours ago. I didn't tell Rachel. What could I say? That I'd already watched this woman suffocate while I was asleep? She'd think I was in shock. Maybe I was. That night, I was afraid to sleep. I sat on my couch, the TV on low, staring at the ceiling. But exhaustion is a tide you can't hold back. I must have drifted off around 3 in the morning, because the next thing I knew, I was dreaming again. This time, it was a man in a bathroom. He was younger, maybe early 30s, with a faded tattoo of a compass on his forearm. He was slumped against the tub, a medicine bottle on the tiles. His breathing was slow, too slow, each exhale wet and rattling. I could smell bleach and rust. Somewhere, a tap was dripping, a steady metallic pulse in the dark. When I woke up, I wrote down every detail I could remember. The tattoo, the drip, the pattern of cracks in the ceiling above the tub. I told myself I was being paranoid. But when our shift started, my hands were shaking so badly I could barely start the IV on a minor call Rachel handled without a second thought. It was around noon when the dispatch came. Overdose, 115 Marrow Road, apartment 2A. Rachel drove. I stared out the window, counting the turns before we made them. I knew the building before I saw it. 4 stories, brown brick, a black awning. The manager met us with a ring of keys, just like in the dream. I led the way up the stairs, Rachel behind me, and I already knew which door it would be. I knew the smell before I pushed it open. I knew the crack on the ceiling, shaped like a question mark. I knew the drip. The man with the compass tattoo was still alive, barely. We worked on him for 10 minutes, Rachel doing compressions while I intubated. But the whole time, I couldn't shake the feeling that I wasn't saving him. I was just acting out a scene that had already been written. His pulse faded. We called it. The drip in the bathroom kept falling, steady as a clock ticking down to nothing. That was the second death I'd seen in my sleep before it happened. I couldn't rationalize it anymore. Rachel started noticing something was off. I'd become quiet, jumpy. She asked if I needed to take a few days. I almost told her the truth, that the dreams were bleeding into my waking life, that I was starting to dread the sound of the radio because I knew the next call might already be playing behind my eyes. But I said nothing. I thought if I could control it, if I could just understand the pattern, maybe I could stop it. The third dream was the clearest and the worst. I saw myself. I was in a cramped basement apartment with a single window high on the wall. Dust motes spun in the yellow light. An elderly man sat in a chair by the window, wrapped in a blanket, his breathing shallow. On the floor, an oxygen tank with a green regulator. I knew this man. I'd seen his face on a missing person flyer months ago. Walter something. In the dream, I reached for the oxygen tank to check the valve, but as soon as my fingers touched the metal, the man's eyes flew open and he started gasping. I fumbled, my hands suddenly useless, and the hiss of oxygen turned into a ragged, choking sound. Then the dream cut to black, and I woke up screaming Rachel's name. I didn't wait for the call. I went to the station early and pulled the logs for missing persons in the district. It took me 40 minutes to find him. Walter Reese, 78, last seen near a basement rental on Candlewood Lane. The address wasn't in our system yet. No one had called 911. That was my chance, I thought. I could change it. I could find him, get him to a hospital before the dream became real. I didn't tell Rachel where I was going. I just took my personal car and drove. Candlewood Lane was a narrow street lined with old oaks, their branches black and bare against the gray sky. The house at the end had a faded "For Rent" sign and a side staircase leading down to the basement. The door was unlocked. The air inside was cold and smelled of dust and old wool. And there he was, Walter Reese, in a chair by the window, exactly as I'd seen him. The oxygen tank, the green regulator, the blanket, even the way the light fell across his hands. He was alive, conscious, but weak. He blinked at me, confused. I knelt beside him, checked his pulse, listened to his lungs. He was stable. I could call it in, get an ambulance, and this time, no one would die. I reached for my radio, and my fingers brushed the oxygen tank. It was an accident. I swear it was an accident. My elbow knocked the regulator, and the valve twisted slightly. A thin hiss of gas, then a louder one. The gauge needle dropped. I tried to tighten it, but the metal was cold, my hands clumsy, and the hiss became a roar. Walter's chest heaved. His eyes found mine, full of terror and something worse, recognition. He clawed at the blanket, and I scrambled to fix the leak, but it was like the dream had already decided. The sound of his breathing faded, replaced by the flat, dead silence of an empty tank. I stood there in that basement, the light from the high window turning amber as the sun set, and I understood. The dreams didn't warn me. They didn't give me a chance to save anyone. They showed me what I was going to do. Every death was something I walked into, a trap I set without knowing. The spoon, the drip, the oxygen tank, they were just props in a play I was doomed to perform. I drove home in the dark, my hands steady for the first time in weeks. I wasn't afraid anymore. I was something worse. Certain. That night, I didn't try to stay awake. I wanted to see what came next. The dream came immediately, as if it had been waiting. In this one, there was no patient, just a road, a stretch of Highway 74 I know well, near the old gravel pit. Fog clinging to the asphalt, red and blue lights reflecting off the trees, an ambulance on its side, a pair of boots lying in the ditch, one missing its sole, and a sound I've heard 100 times in real life, the dispatcher's voice, flat and calm, reading an address and a time. This time, it was our rig number, our names. I woke up before the sun, sat on the edge of my bed, and listened. The house was silent. Outside, a dog barked twice, then stopped. I haven't told Rachel. I won't. In a few hours, I'll put on my uniform and get in the ambulance like it's any other shift. But now I know that the worst thing I'll ever see isn't waiting on some call.
It's already inside my head, and it knows exactly where I'm supposed to be when it happens.